It's all about starting before I'm ready. Starting something which is like, I have no idea how I'm going to be finishing it. I have no idea how that is going to be looking like. Just imagine like going to Himalayas. I had no idea. Even though I'm born in India, I never been to North India anytime. That was my first time. And I was going alone with no clarity. So I just started before I was even ready for that. And that trip became like one of the best trips in my life.
Yeah.
And same for you, maybe the business that you're thinking about starting, or maybe the book that you wanted to write, or maybe the podcast that you wanted to start. Start before you are ready. Once you start, automatically everything will come. The second step, the third step, and the fourth step. Don't wait for anything.
Well, welcome back to the Professional Rule Breaker Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Walterhouse, and I am super excited for my guest today. But before we start, I want to make sure that you don't miss any of our episodes. So hit subscribe because we are here, myself and all my guests, we're here to help you succeed. So as I mentioned, I'm super excited for my guest today. He is the founder and CEO of Make More Leaders. His number one goal is to equip you to become an example of what's possible and also to help ambitious leaders achieve their 10-year goals in less than 12 months. And I really, really want to hear about that. So I want to welcome to the show today my special guest, Vamsi Polimetla.
Hey, Kathy. Great to be here.
I'm excited, super excited to have you. So the first thing I want to ask you about is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I saw that you said, and you said this: everything that you're looking for is outside your comfort zone. Act now before you're ready and don't wait. So I want you to tell me a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, Kathy. So a little background about me. I'm originally from India. I lived in India for the first 20 years of my life. And then I moved to Singapore, lived there for a couple of years, then came to US and been living here for almost like close to 20 years now. And throughout my life, I'm not a great student in the school. I was almost like a C minus, sometimes like maybe hardly got like a B, maybe once or maybe twice I got like a B pluses. So I was always like a thinking outside of the box. How can I just complete this? I know this is not something that's going to help me. So after completing my school, I did not go to university. I started learning computer science. I started like learning programming, and I started my career as a programmer. And I was making about $30 a month.
Wow.
19-year-old living in India with parents, $30. I was like thinking I'm rich. I got like all the freedom. I got money. I can do whatever I want. I don't need to wait for my parents' pocket money. And I was doing pretty good. I was there for almost like 2 years. And at that point, one day, that was the 1999 Millennium New Year. Everyone, all of my friends were celebrating the 2000, and I was just sitting at the beach. My parents' home is like very close to the beach. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, what else I can do? Now I achieved my the dream, like I'm a computer programmer without even having a college degree. And I heard it from little far. Some of my friends were talking about, hey, there are more opportunities in Singapore. And I heard it, the lifestyle in Singapore is like maybe the best lifestyle anyone can just imagine. I heard those two things, opportunities and better lifestyle. I have no idea where Singapore is in the map. And not next day morning, like 2 days after the New Year, I went to the travel agency and I asked them, I wanted to go to Singapore. Do you have like any services? Do you have anything that you can provide for me? And they said like, yeah, we can arrange few things. Do you have passport? I said like, no. They said like, okay, you need to have a passport to go to out of country. I never been out of my state at that point. And I applied for a passport and I started asking myself like what exactly that I need in order for me to cross this country. I started like answering that question. My communication was not that great. So I started investing into my communication. So fast forward, Kathy, 3 months later, this is around like April of 2000. I got my passport and I went to the travel agent and they said like there are two ways that you can go to Singapore. One way you can get a job and you can go, or you can go there as a tourist. But
Oh,
like I
okay.
don't think like nobody's going to give me a job because I don't know where Singapore is. Maybe I wanted to go as a tourist. So I told about like my Singapore adventure to a couple of my friends, and one said, "Hey, if you're going, I'll come too." And we both decided, and we bought a flight ticket, and we jumped on a flight, and we are sitting in the middle row of that flight journey. Like a three seats in the middle, two here, and there
Right.
is one guy who is sitting next to us, and my friend is asking, "Do you know where the Singapore is?" And I was just like pointing out, "This is where Singapore is," because in front of my the flight seat there is a screen. That was the first time I was getting on airplane. I never been in an airplane
Oh, that
before.
was your first time. And
First
you're going to
time.
Singapore. Wow.
Singapore. And I was pointing, this is, and he's saying that, no, 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 that is not Singapore. Singapore is another way. He's showing somewhere near Africa. And we are arguing, no, this is Singapore. And the guy who's sitting next to us and say, really? You don't know where Singapore and you are going there? They're like, yeah, we're going there. So the thing is stepping out from the comfort zone. We never been outside of India. We never been outside of our home state. And I landed in Singapore within like a 30 days, I got a job and my salary before going to Singapore was $30 a month.
Right.
And I 100xed my salary to
Wow.
$3,000 a month.
That's a
The same,
huge jump.
yeah, huge, huge jump. So the lesson that I learned, very first lesson there, just the moment we start stepping outside of our comfort zone, all the miracles are going to be happening. Only thing is, we just need to believe that, and we need to have that trust in ourselves that we can figure things out and go there. And that is the starting point of my life, Kathy. Every single time I stepped out from the comfort zone, I definitely went went like this up.
I totally agree because that's quite frankly what the professional rule breaker is stepping outside your comfort zone. So let me ask you this, because there are a lot of people out there that are listening or they're watching that maybe might be afraid to step outside of the box, step outside their comfort zone. What do you say to those people?
Again, it's like a day to day for me. I have the same fears, but just do it anyway. Mentality. You start somewhere. I'm also going to be asking a question to your audience. Just think about the house that you are living in, or maybe the car that you are driving. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, it was not in your comfort zone. You just like took that step and you said like, okay, I'm going to be buying this house, I'm going to be building this house, and it is real for you. The same way, first you need to have that mental clarity. What is that you really wanted to have? In my case, in the story that I was talking about going to Singapore, I had a mental clarity about like a big buildings, beautiful weather, maybe like a lot more money. So I had that picture in my mind. So everything happens twice, Kathy. First time it happens in our mind, and second time it happens in our reality. So the moment you have something clear in your mind, I really wanted to have something, I think like you have all the permission to go and just like a step outside of their comfort zone. If you don't have that, spend some time, maybe just like use like maybe time on thinking what exactly that I wanted to have if I go in that direction.
I totally agree because I am really big in having that clarity and having that visualization. For me, some of the largest deals that I have closed in sales all started with that mental clarity, with that vision. And then what was interesting, and I don't know if you have found this too, is that when you know the end, when you know what it is that you want, all of a sudden, all the things, all the little blocks and pieces that you need, they either start appearing, but I think what it is your mind is looking for that, because it's looking for that path to get you to where you want to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's really powerful point. I just wanted to add something to that. So have a clear 4K vision on this is what I wanted to have, but don't wait for I really wanted to see what color of carpet that I'm going to have, the house that I'm planning on buying 10 years from now. Because those things,
Right.
those material things will change because you don't have to have clarity on that. And this is a mistake a lot of people they make is they really want, I really wanted to see clearly. That's the reason I'm not making. No, start going that way. Start signing the contract, maybe say changing the cupboards, changing the kitchen size, whatever that is, until you make that move, it's not going to be happening. So you don't have to have everything, but all you need to do is what is the right next thing in order for me to go there? What is that right next thing? You need to know what are the markers that I need to measure myself. Just an example, if you're running for a marathon, 26 plus miles, you don't need to know what is 24-mile going to look like. All you need to do is run the current mile. That's it. Give your best and say yourself, okay, next mile is going to be better than this. So focus on the current one. Always see this is like markers. I finished 5 miles. I finished 7 miles. I finished 18 miles. Obviously, you'll be at 24 and you know exactly what 24 is. Like, don't wait until you see clearly what is mile 24 or 20.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, you do that first mile, the first kilometer, and then you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go faster. And then maybe I'll do 2 and just keep on building it. I think if you just keep on looking for those building blocks, whatever they are, it's going to come to you. And I love what you said, that not to wait. And what's interesting is I see that you're wearing, you basically said, just do it. And I see that
Yes.
you're wearing Nike attire, a hat for all those folks that are listening rather than watching. He's wearing a Nike hat and he's wearing a Nike shirt, and their logo or their mantra is just do it. And I have to say, I've had that. I always said that I had just do it before Nike did. Because that's what I always used to say is just do it. Because I think if you just, exactly what you said, if you keep on waiting, that inaction, it's not going to get you anywhere. And then you're going to, as time goes by, you're going to be wistful and you're going to think, gosh, if only I had, XYZ. So just go ahead and do it, because what's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You fail. So what? You get up and you go again.
We
So,
learn something from that failure, and we are going to be definitely a better human being than the person who did not try.
yes. Oh, absolutely. I think failing is the quickest way to success.
Yeah.
It really is. If you look at anyone that's out there, even just, going back in history, Einstein, look at all the amazing things that Einstein created. Well, before he created, he had over 2,000 failures, documented failures. So imagine if he had quit, what would have happened?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you a question. I saw something else that you said, that the most important study, or the most important product to study, is yourself. So why do you say that?
Right. So I think this is going back to slowing down in terms of like what you wanted to achieve in your life. A lot of times people just go in a default mode, whatever that the opportunities are coming to them, either from working in the corporate, working on business, maybe on entrepreneurship side. Instead of going in a default mode, first slow down and ask yourself what exactly that you want, who you are, what you're really, really excited about. And this is also going into a lot of times, like people ask me the question, Kathy, Vamsi, what is your definition of success?
Yes.
It's not just about making a lot more money. It's not about like creating like maybe more companies. It's all about like asking yourself a question. What is important for you? Think about like we all going to be 90 years at one point, and we are not going to have the same energy that we have at 90. maybe for you and I think we're going to have
I
the
was like,
same
no, I
energy.
will.
Yeah. I'm talking about like 90% of the population, right? So they're going to have like maybe the time, like they're thinking, okay, my time is coming almost like a close to an end, or maybe in the next 10 years, I'm going to be gone. So start like visualizing that person, 90-year-old, and start asking this question: what would this 90-year-old person really, really wants? Did he or she spend enough time with the family? Did he really enjoy? Did she really like completed all the things that she really wanted to do with her life? Sometimes the small things like walking in the beach, sand with like maybe kids, maybe running a marathon, or maybe flying across the globe, maybe in the economy class. Who cares? It's like maybe traveling around like all the countries, like 200 plus countries, right? So asking those questions, the very first question, what exactly that you want? I always ask my clients to, before they start working with me, write down 101 things that you wanted to have in your life. And they say like, okay, that's easy task. And after that, like maybe 3 days, 4 days later, they message, Vamsi, it's so tough. I got only 30. I got only
Right.
35. And that is where like the magic, you need to slow down a little bit. What else that I want? And once you have the list and your goal is, you need to go back to that 95th birthday or maybe 105th birthday and say, did I really complete all those things? Did I really enjoy my life? Did I really like love the people around me? Could be clients, could be like maybe family. And did I change the place better than I found before in this journey? Right. So that is exactly like going back to, you need to understand who you are clearly. What are your values? What are the things that really like maybe you enjoy doing? So once you answer those questions, I think you're going to see the world in a different way. You don't go in a default approach. When you get like two opportunities on the sales side, maybe on the business side, you see, this is not aligned with what I really want in my life. And you will be definitely making decisions based on with that conscious awareness. So that's the reason, like I always ask, like it's most important product, understanding who you are. And we do this once a year in-person mastermind. We spend like 4 days and nights together, about like 25, 30 people from multiple parts of the world. We all spend like almost like 50, 60 hours in a single home in like a big villa in like a Florida next to the beach. And we work on this, and that document, that whatever that they're going to be creating, is going to be GPS for them for the next maybe 10 years, maybe for the next rest of the life. And yeah, I highly recommend somebody like maybe slowing down, answering these questions, so that way they get more value, more clarity.
I love that. I really love that. What I do with my clients is I ask them, what is your mission? But I
Mm-hmm.
think you may not know your mission until you go through your exercise. So I really, really love that, because I think exactly what you said, like in the very beginning, so many people live their life what I would consider to be in status quo or in default, going to work every day because they have to, maybe not loving what it is that they do, and maybe not having that joy because they're kind of putting it off for later. Like, when I retire, I'm going to do this, or when I do this, or when I make $1 million, I'm going to do X, again, XYZ. And I think if you go through the exercise of doing the 100, it was 101, correct?
101, yep.
101 things of what it is that you want. I think the perspective will change radically.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is so thought
Absolutely.
provoking. I'm actually just pausing for a second. So everyone that's out there, I want you to think about that. Take a moment and take the lead from Vamsi and, write down those 101 things that you want, and take the time to do that, because I think that's an amazing exercise. So,
Absolutely. Can I
yeah.
can I add something to what you just said? A
Yes.
lot of people, and I asked this question. This is something that I learned from one of my mentor, Devon Bandison, a year ago. How many days we have in a week? How do you answer that,
7.
Kathy? 7,
Yes.
right? So this is like you and I say 7 days, Monday to Friday, 5 days, and Saturday and Sunday weekend. But 95% of the world got 8 days in the week. You know what is the extra day? Is someday.
Oh, someday. Yes.
Someday.
Oh my goodness. That's right. Yeah, someday. Well, that's
Someday.
someday we need to do something about. We need to make it instead of
Right.
someday today.
Exactly. And that someday, because we are putting so many things into that someday, we are overloading our brain. And that someday this week did not happen because we have only 7 days. And the next week, one more day, one more day, one more day. So much pressure on your brain. I really wanted to do this someday. And what you just shared, like asking all of your listeners to do that exercise, don't put that exercise into someday. Take maybe a day off. Take maybe like a schedule some time, like every week I wanted to spend 30 minutes answering that question, so that way the value that you're getting it from this conversation, it's not going to go on someday.
Right. Start today, actually.
Yeah, there you
Schedule
go.
some time, even if it's 10 minutes before you go to bed, or even
Mm-hmm.
have a journal next to your bed. So the first thing when you wake up, or right before you go to sleep, or a combination of both. And then I would say, as new things come along, why not add that onto the list?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Because things are
this
always changing, right? What you may want today might be radically different tomorrow.
right, because we are changing, and some of the things that you are thinking, I wanted to achieve these 101 things before my 95th birthday, may be done in next week. So you can strike that off and just like upload the list. Always like have that list active in front of you.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Maybe get like one of those giant, I have in my office, which you can't obviously see at the moment, but I have these giant post-it notes up. Some of them with reminders of like things that I like the feelings that I want for the year, or just other things. Why not put that giant list up somewhere where you can see it every day, whether it's on your mirror
Mm-hmm.
or in your office, or there's so many different places. And yeah, I think that's fantastic. I have not heard of the 101. I've heard of like smaller lists, but I think you're right. I think you have to slow down, because there truly is more than just 10 or 15 things that we really want in life, if we really take the time to
Right.
think about it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's so good. So let me ask you something else. You talk
Sure.
about the invisible enemy. What is that?
Sure. So every time when we are going through some rough patch, or maybe when we are thinking why things are not working in a way, it's all about the story that we are telling ourselves, the things that we are resisting. I'll just share one example that just happened to me this month, just like 2 days ago. So April was the phenomenal month for me, Kathy. This is like one of the best months ever, period, in my life. Beautiful,
That's
like
great.
all dimensions, my relationship, my family, finances, like my adventures, best month. And I also asked all of my clients to do one pager for that month. So after ending that month, just spend like maybe 2 hours and write down every single thing on your notebook or journal with your pen, all the things, that grateful things, like, so that way you are reminding yourself how grateful you are. So I completed that activity. I was like almost like a top of my the Mount Everest. And the next day, the May 1st came in, and I say, after this huge month, how I'm going to have my May?
Mm,
Immediately the downward spiral
spiral.
started,
Mhm.
and I was completely dull for a day. And what I did yesterday was I was completely took day off, and I was just like in a silence. That's the reason, like, you asked me to update something, I said like I'll do it in the night. I was completely in silence, and I started telling it different stories. See, who created this month? That's me. So that me is still alive, that me got more mature, that me even more equipped to do create better months than that. So
Mhm.
it's all about like a telling a story. Sometimes if you start telling invisible, like maybe say the negative things, like maybe say, hey, how can I get the something else? Like I'm not equipped, I'm not qualified. That exactly the results that we are going to be getting it. It's all about the magnet that we have inside and what stories that we are telling. That magnet will be charged based on that. If you change the
Absolutely.
story, automatically you will be becoming positive, and also you're going to be attracting people into your life. Just like, see, you and I are having this conversation because we are operating at almost at the same frequency, right?
Mhm.
So that's exactly, like, you need to change that story inside going in your mind, so that way you get better results. And it's not, I also asked myself a question that I just wanted to share openly. I invested like hundreds of thousands of dollars on my personal growth. I've been in this space for almost like 10 years now. If I'm having this kind of like a negative downward spiral, what about like other people? They're not
Absolutely.
invested. They did not go, they did not get mentored by Tony Robbins. They did not get mentored by Dan Sullivan. They did not get mentored by like
Mhm.
all the wonderful people in this world. And I asked myself, I think like I definitely wanted to share this message. Hey, we all going to have that, but we can change that by just changing the story.
Oh, I love that. That's absolutely so true. When you were first talking about it, a couple examples came to my mind because I work a lot with salespeople and sales teams. And every month, the slate gets cleaned.
Mm,
So let's say you had this absolutely amazing, amazing month. Okay, the month closes out. Now it's the first of the month again, and the numbers start again. And people are asking you, where are you going to get your numbers from this month?
mm,
Sometimes it's almost a feeling, because I've gone through this myself. And I've also led teams that have gone through this as well. Is you have this great month. So very similar, right? You have this really great month. And then you kind of go, oh, I'm at zero. Now what am I going to do? But you're right. It's that story that you tell as well, because you have things in the funnel. You've done really amazing things. And if you've done it before, you can certainly do it again. And it's just like I see in your background, you have an image of a mountain. It's like
hmm.
climbing a mountain. The first time's the hardest, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
But the next time you go climb that mountain, you know where all the crevices are, you know the hard parts. You maybe train a little bit better so that you're really going to be able to do it better. You'll probably do it faster as well. I mean, that's kind of what life is too, is the first time is the hardest. You get outside the comfort zone, but then you start thinking about what are all those pieces that I need
Mm,
so that the next time I climb and it's a little bit easier. And I would say being grateful for having experience, being grateful for all the things in your life is a huge tool, right?
absolutely, absolutely. The moment we climb one mountain, then only we get to see there are more mountains out there. If you're just
Yes.
sitting on the bottom and say, "Oh, do I really need to climb this mountain? Is it tough? Is it hard?" You are not going to be seeing these things. I wanted to share one personal story. This happened almost 2 years ago. So I used to be in the corporate. I was in the IT leadership role, and I used to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I spent almost 23 years of my life solving IT problems. And at one point, I decided I really wanted to start helping people outside of these four walls. So breaking the rules, like it's not possible if I'm spending 50, 60 hours within the four walls. I started my coaching business, Make More Leaders, as just like a testing my hypothesis. I started in the part time, like helping one or two people, and that became like maybe 10 people, became 15 people. At one point, I decided why I'm wasting my time in the corporate. It's not about the money, it's about like maybe where I'm getting like a maximum fulfillment from. And I quit my job. My first goal, Kathy, to replace my corporate income through my coaching. It's huge. Like I spent 23 years to uh, get to that point, and replacing that something like I'm starting from the scratch. And that happened in 6 months.
That's
And
amazing.
And at that point, I realized, okay, I think okay, this is good. I'm just like breaking the rules. I'm just going with my own direction. My second goal was I read a book by Tim Ferriss like very long ago, maybe 8 years ago in 2015, 4 Hour Work Week.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that was like I was thinking, is this really possible to have a 4 hour work week? Or maybe Tim Ferriss is just like making things up. I wanted to experiment that 4 hour work week through my business. And that happened next year. That was in 2021. And I felt like, okay, I replaced my corporate income. I'm only working 4 hours. What else that I want? At that point, like I was just like maybe not seeing any bigger challenges. And my wife asked me, how about like you go to India and spend some time on your spiritual path? I said like, oh, that's a great idea. So I went to Himalayas.
Mm.
These mountains came from there. And I was walking on the Himalayas. This is like from New Delhi, that is the capital of India, about like a 6.5 hour train ride to go to that place. Once we get down there, it's about 8 hours on uphill in the car. So I rented a car
Wow.
with a driver because I don't know the routes. And it was like almost like you are on the roller coaster for almost 8 hours. And you reach that point, and it's almost like a 2 miles above the ground, about the sea level. So I landed there and I took like all night rest. Next day morning, I walked on the mountains for about like a 2.5 hours. And I reached the pinnacle and I felt like, wow, this is the top of Himalayas. I just uh, so happy there. And one of the guide that with me at that point, he said like, is this top? And he said like, no, 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 go there about like a half a mile and watch, you'll see more. I walked there. It took me about like 1 hour to go there, half a mile. And I saw that the mountain that I'm standing in is like this size, whereas Himalayas this big.
Oh, wow.
I saw real like a joy there. And
Mm-hmm.
on the back of me, it's all about my accomplishments, being a leader in the corporate, making six figures, making like driving a BMWs and like having $1 million. All that's on other side. This is like a completely different world. At that point, I decided I really wanted to show this to my kids. And 6 months later, we all went there. I took my boys and my wife. We spent some time on the same mountain and I showed them this is what you need to understand. It's not about like all the things. No matter what you're doing, there is more that you can learn from that. That's a moment I decided I need to have that on my back. So that it always reminds me, no matter where I'm at, I'm like this small. There are like a million things I can learn from.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I bet you that was just an incredible experience. Because when you go to places like that, I do think there is an energy like no other in the world, and you experience that. We had the privilege of going to Machu Picchu, and it's
Hmm.
not as high as the Himalayas, but the feeling that you get when you finally get there, it's an experience like you almost can't put that into words. And I had a sense of awe that first off, that I actually got there. That was the first thing. And then not only that, but generations before me had gone there without the roads and the tour, the tools and not and without the guides, because we went with a guide. And it's just, that there are things bigger than you when you go to places like that.
100%, 100%. And this is the second time in the last 2 days I'm hearing somebody saying about Machu Picchu. I think like
Oh,
maybe I should plan my trip there. Universe is telling me you should go there next.
oh, you and I need to talk about it. Yes, absolutely. I would probably go there again if I
Mm,
had the opportunities. There's so many different places, besides, I mean, there's so much in Machu Picchu itself that
mm,
we spent 2 days there, and 2 days was not enough.
mm.
So, and then even just the travel to Machu Picchu, it's amazing. There's just so much history, so much sacred grounds. It's pretty amazing. The whole area is very amazing. But I could probably spend an entire podcast talking about Machu Picchu, but we won't do that today. Maybe we'll do that another day. We'll talk
Absolutely.
about all the spiritual places in the world that are just really amazing to travel. Well, I love to hear that you're a rule breaker. I knew you
Hmm.
were that was one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you. But what do you think really makes you a rule breaker?
It's all about starting before I'm ready. Starting something which is like, I have no idea how I'm going to be finishing it. I have no idea how that is going to be looking like. Just imagine like my going to Himalayas. I had no idea. Even though I born in India, I never been to North India anytime. That was my first time, and I was going alone with no clarity. So I just started before I was even ready for that, and that trip became like one of the best trips in my life.
Yeah.
And the same for you, maybe the business that you're thinking about starting, or maybe the book that you wanted to write, or maybe the podcast that you wanted to start. Start before you are ready. Once you start, automatically everything will come. The second step, the third step, and the fourth step. Don't wait for anything.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. Have just some clarity of what your end goal is and just do it. Correct?
Yes, yes.
Because what's the worst that can happen?
We learn something.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think if you're not learning, you're dying.
Hmm.
So that's really important. Well, I have to say, I have really, really enjoyed this chat of ours. I'm going to have you back because I think there's so much more that we could talk about. And for everyone that's out there, I just want to say this message about, you are special. You are so unique in this world. And there's so much that you can offer. And as Vamsi and I discussed, just have some clarity. Write that 101 list of things that you want and go after them. Because, like I said, you are special. And just think about if you weren't to share your gifts to the world, what would happen? The world wouldn't have access to all these amazing things that you are. So again, I just want to thank my amazing guest, Vamsi. Thank you for being here on the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. It really has been a lot of fun. I love speaking with rule breakers, which you definitely are.
Thank you, Kathy.
Oh,
It's a
and
great.
one last thing. Where can people find you?
LinkedIn is the best place. You can go and Google my name, Vamsi Polimetla. You'll find me on LinkedIn, and also vamsi.coach is my website. Maybe you can drop that link on the podcast notes as well, Kathy.
Absolutely. We will have it in the show notes. So again, thank you so much for being my guest.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.